So, what does this late night movie have in store for us today? Find out after the title. Hello and welcome to Trash with a capital T, where we give trashy books and movies the love they truly deserve. And some deserve more than others. I'm your host, Bobby. New videos are posted here every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you like what you see during the video, give me a like. Makes me feel good and it helps the channel. And, subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my content. I got tons of weird stuff coming up. So this video is actually a replacement video. I had a different video, a much more wholesome video in this slot, but it would have been the start to a series that I don't think is going to work. I could not make work. So I'm nixing that video, and I wanted to do this review anyways. I've been trying to find a good spot to kind of pop it in, and this feels like a good time to do it. I think it's a little movie heavy review-wise at this point, but I've been wanting to do this one, and I really want to share this one with you guys because it is such an oddity. So I'm going to be talking about a late night movie, 1995's Private Obsession, directed by Lee Frost, who was, although I'm not familiar with any of his older films, was a prominent exploitation director in the 70s. This was his last film, and it is starring Shannon Whirry as a model named Emmanuel. And we have talked about Shannon Whirry on this channel before when I talked about the Stella Stevens horror comedy, The Granny. Shannon Whirry was her co-star in that. This is a little more typical Shannon Whirry, kind of. It's not typical anything from this period, but she did more erotic thrillers. She's done a wide range of films and TV, but in the 90s, she was really known for doing like Shannon Tweed, and there was a bunch of actresses who that's their bread and butter. Now, the difference between erotic thriller and like softcore late night programming, erotic thriller tends to be more story and character heavy. These were movies that just had a little push more towards the smexy side of things. So there was definitely more acting. You saw a lot of actors who were coming off of TV in the 70s and 80s. These were the movies where they were kind of keeping their career going, and then eventually they were able to transition into other work once this kind of genre died down. What makes Private Obsession interesting to me is it is much darker than a lot of those movies would be and dealt with some really weird subject matter. The general gist of the movie, and I'm going to pause right here. If you hear noise in the background, I live in the suburbs. I am shooting in my office, which there are people outside mowing their lawns, doing lawn work. So you might hear some buzzing and stuff in the background, and I apologize. But okay. So the general plot is we follow a very famous supermodel named Emmanuel. She's also kind of an actress, political figure, very outspoken feminist. She's played by Shannon Whirry, and she's very strong-willed, which is important. And because of her strong will and very opinionated stance on certain gender issues in politics and the world in general, she has gotten the attention of Richard, played by Michael Christian, who I believe did mostly TV in the 70s and 80s. He's really sleazy in this movie. He does a wonderful job. But Richard thinks that Emmanuel is meant for him, that she is going to be his one, but he's going to need to train her to be his perfect wife. And he thinks the best way to go about that is to kidnap her and keep her in a room under video surveillance in his house. That's exactly what he does. He kidnaps Emmanuel and he puts her in a room in his house under video surveillance to try and break her will, to turn her into his perfect wife. And the majority of the film is a battle of the wills between Emmanuel and Richard. And we get a lot of monologuing and characters, just the two of them talking, usually through video screens, not even in person. And Richard is not a nice man. I was actually very worried going into this that they were going to play him as kind of goofy and light. No, he is a bastard. Because Emmanuel is not playing around. She is not going to give in to this man. She is going to outsmart him. And she is determined, even if she has to play his game, she's going to stick to her morals. She's going to keep herself intact. And that is why this movie, I think, works, because we are always rooting for Emmanuel, or at least I was. I can't speak for everyone who was watching the movie, but I was. Her character does come off as kind of cold at times, but you learn it's mostly because she's guarded, because she's had to fight for where she's at. She had to fight for her career, her life, her freedom. And she's having to fight for it all over again when it comes to Richard. And Shannon Whirry does a great job. And this is a dialogue-heavy movie. We're talking monologues. And she really does bring a lot of strength to the Emmanuel character, which is important because if you did not do that, this movie would feel even more insane and ridiculous. There are moments in this movie that really just made me go, what the hell am I watching? But that's actually why I ended up searching this movie out, because I had seen part of this when I was a kid. No, I did not watch this movie as a child. There was no way. There is plenty of sex and nudity and all of that in this film. It would not have flown. But just by flipping channels and having cable in the 90s, I caught a scene where Emmanuel gets caught going through this doggy door to try and escape her room, and she gets stuck. And Richard has to use butter to kind of like push her back. And the way it's shot and the way it's acted is so bizarre and ridiculous. It just stuck in my head for years until I hunted this movie down and found it. I actually originally found a VHS copy of this, and the audio was terrible. It's really hard to find some of these movies, and I just considered I'd never see it all the way through. I'd never see the movie. And then it got released on a double bill with this horrible movie called Midnight Confessions, which was so boring. Also, it was a late night movie where the lead actress didn't do nudity, so they used a body double, so there was a lot of weird cuts. It was weird. It also was just dull. It was very boring. That's actually the problem with a lot of these films and why I like Private Obsession as much as I do. It is not boring, which is interesting because it could be done as a stage play. We have two characters talking to each other for the majority of this film. And Richard does do some truly horrible things and puts Emmanuel through hell. Now, when I say that, I do not mean he finds interesting ways to get to her. One of the most prominent is he turns off the water to her little suite that he is keeping her in. So she's left without water and food for days. And she has to find ways to keep herself alive without breaking her spirit. And she does. I'm not going to give away the ending. If none of this sounds too alarming to you, I would recommend watching this. It is quite an interesting little time capsule of 90s late night TV, where you have two actors just go for broke. The direction's kind of meh. It obviously did not have a big budget, but there's something interesting here. And that's what I kind of look for when I look at these movies. Because I'm going to be honest, most late night erotic thrillers, just late night softcore films in general are boring. They're very boring. The sex is usually laughable. It's always done the same way. Lots of hair flips. Nothing lines up. And you do have some of that here. There are sex scenes in the film. Obviously, all simulated, all fake. But there are sex scenes in the film. And Emmanuel does have to play along with the game. And there are times where you think she might be giving in. But it's never that simple. And as far as a piece of late night film goes, this one is one of those ones that I have to recommend just because it's not like nothing else that was being done at the time. You didn't see this lead into exploitation. It doesn't feel sleazy though. And I put a lot of that on the two actors. I think Shannon Whirry and Michael Christian bring a lot of weight to the film. We also have the side plot with this cop who's looking for Emmanuel. And that is played by Bo Svensson. Yes. I have the IMDb up over here. And you have this kind of like cutaway. So we do have a break and we get removed from the house for a little bit and have some side characters with a really, truly just weird cameo by Rip Torn for people who are old enough and remember him. He was this very flamboyant TV personality who would like run out with a bucket of glitter and like, he was an interesting one. But for some reason, he's in this movie. Don't know why. I think he's just a bit character if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's just this little oddity that I have to say it's worth watching. And I think the DVD goes for like $10. So I if you are someone who loves exploitation films, B movies, especially from the 90s, like true filmic oddities, check it out. It is not an amazing movie. This is not Academy Award winning acting. These movies were shot quick and cheap and dirty. And, you know, it definitely, it's there for the exploit, the sleaze of it all. Although it doesn't feel too gross. And that is actually a testament to how the film is structured. Namely, the fact that the character of Emmanuel is a character. We learn her history, her story, why she is as strong as she is. And the choices she makes at the end, while a little confusing, are interesting. It leaves the movie ends on a very interesting note that kind of tips everything on its head, and I enjoyed that part of it. And yes, it can be a little boring. There are definitely moments where the film slows down. You had limitations on what you can get away with in these movies, and it definitely at times shows. They couldn't go for broke like they could in the 70s, especially because you were working under cable regulations, and what they would let fly in their late night movies. But it's definitely one worth checking out. I have not seen a ton of Shannon Whirry's other movies. I've really only seen The Granny and this. She has a bunch. I know Animal Instincts is probably the one that she's best known for. That one doesn't look all that interesting to me. It's a Roger Corman erotic thriller. It's like a husband and wife get caught up in some weird smexy games that go wrong. Cops are involved. People get shot. I don't know. I've seen the body chemistry movies. And again, boring. Boring. Not great. I've seen 2 and 3. Not great. This is one that kind of stands out to me because it tried to do something different. It wasn't trying to replicate Basic Instinct or Fatal Attraction. It was kind of doing its own thing. And that's what makes this one, for lack of a better word, special. So, I do recommend, if you are old enough, I don't know how old my audience is. I'm guessing they're closer to my age. So yeah. And you are not offended by anything I've said so far, definitely check out Private Obsession. It is a great, great late night movie. It definitely sleazy, cheap B-movie material, and it's all of that. But there's a level of skill in the acting here that I do have to actually really respect. Shannon Whirry did not phone in her performances. She took them seriously. When you hear her interviewed about her work at this time, when she was doing a lot of these types of films, she took them seriously. And it shows, and it makes the movie better because of that. So, for all of those who are looking for a little naughty nostalgia, I highly recommend Private Obsession. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this review up here. It doesn't need to be much longer than this, with a reminder of the housekeeping. New videos posted every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you like what you see during the video, give me a like. Makes me feel good, helps the channel. And in the comments, since I kind of leave this stuff out, I always forget to do a call to action. If you have any late night movies you think I would have fun checking out and that I could actually hunt down, let me know in the comments, because I would love to check them out and see. My poor husband might have to sit through them, but he'll deal. Okay. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new episodes. I always screw up the ending on these things. All right. So, as I always try and say, love what you love, enjoy what you're reading and watching, and have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.